right, Antonio,
So, man,
how are you doing, man?
not bad, not bad. That was a interesting debate.
Yeah, you caught the whole thing?
Yeah, from our early audio issues. Again.
Yeah, man. People think that I control the whole thing, but I'm just doing my best to keep my eyes on the chat and collect the notes and try to maintain a semblance of civility.
Yeah, it muddled the line there a little bit towards the end, but I think you kept it pretty straight.
Yeah, I just hope that everybody felt that they had equal enough time to speak,
And that's the thing with these, especially when you leave it more open format, you kind of get, it's to the flow. I think some points people were more unaware of the position, so that kind of drove it towards that, which was fine. I thought that was actually pretty good. It opened the door for a lot more questions, I think. But it was, that's the whole point of the debate, right? To discuss and to exchange ideas.
Yeah. Do you think that you got a good idea of what everybody believed?
I have it from their perspective. I think that, especially with like Kay and Jenna being kind of new.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an initial perspective. And one of my things, I think we talked about it previously, like everything's perspective, right? So, I mean, look how many denominations we have in Christianity, or you just like, it's one of those things. How do you take the information that you receive and process and how it relates to you and your experience? So I think they gave a very good overview, but I think, everyone's inherent bias kind of comes out, and there might be some things that he didn't agree with in their perspective faith, or lack thereof, or, choices. But ultimately, I think it helped paint a picture for a lot of people who probably never heard. I mean, paganism is, I think, generally misunderstood a lot of the time. And pantheism is just, that I think that's new for the vast majority of people to really have to go into it. And Jennifer was going deep with the verbiage. So I think she might have lost some people. Not to say that it was right or wrong, but to say, like, sometimes you got to talk to your audience, and you're using, $6 words, people are going to cash out quick.
Yeah, I definitely. She had some fans in the chat for sure.
Oh,
There were
yeah.
some people that were rooting hard for her, but I definitely felt like I'd need to go back to her old videos or something and probably binge on that before I can really understand what she's talking about there.
Yeah, I mean, and to her point, she said, she's like, I'm basically giving you the Cliff Notes version, which doesn't no justice, because you're missing the key components, and I'm giving you just the 30-second shotgun approach to this, just so you can be, as I explain my position. And I said, I get that, but it can be a little confusing if you don't have those foundational pieces. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Going back and checking her other videos or just researching it. I mean, she threw Google out there, right? That's everyone's best friend, I think.
Yeah, I do think that Jenna, though, really got to the heart of Jennifer's issue, though, because when she asked her, like, well, I'm not sure how, because honestly, like, I'm listening, right? I'm not going to say I'm not. I'm definitely listening. I'm hearing the words, and I kind of have an idea of what they're saying, a pretty good idea, but it's not processing like a normal conversation, like the conversation you and I are having right now. I'm listening to you for sure.
Well, you're split, right? You're moderating, right?
Yeah, I'm reading. At the same time.
You're a screener, and like I said, you're looking at the questions, you're listening to the discussion to make sure it stays in a semblance of civility and on topic. So you're juggling, and I don't expect you to be 100% in tune to anything.
So maybe you can correct my understanding a little bit, but I think what happened was Jenna challenged her on where all of this comes from, and she got to a point where she said something like her basic the axiom that she draws all this from is that God is the universe, and Jenna was pushing back like, well, where does that come from? And she was basically saying, I like it.
Yeah, so she, like I said, there was more to it. I think just for Jennifer's point, it would have taken, she could have did a whole discussion on just pantheism, and that probably would have been more clear, and like I said, go back and catch up to it. But for her to try to give a 2-minute synopsis of everything, I think it just would have undercut it. And I get what she was saying, but like I said, when you're trying to summarized so succinctly. You miss the, describe an elephant in 3 words. That's what she was doing. So it's like I give her a little bit of a pass on that. I did kind of, Jenna was given the business. Let me lead off with that one.
Yeah, totally.
She got. I was like, wow, she's throwing haymakers, respectfully, but she got it. William, and outside of the audio issues, I think she was asking some very provocative questions that many people ask. I think I've asked those questions several times. Is, if God is omnipotent and all powerful, it's kind of like a kid with an ant farm. He's just shaking it up just to see what happens. That's her position. And I typed into the chat, I don't know if you saw that. I was like, listen, I mean, because of those perspectives and where we sit on the discussion, right? That distribution, she's saying it is God is, a dick. But that means she's saying he's actively participating in like the sabotage of humanity. And Will is the counterpoint to us. No, he set it up so you get this free will and such and such. Like, that's great, but like, you kind of didn't answer her argument. Is, well, if God knew this was going to happen and he let it happen, he is kind of like, what's the point? And that's where he should have countered that with whatever he was going to. Me playing devil's advocate says, well, no, that the whole premise of free will, like, he knows what you're going to do. It's great, but he still, I guess, wants to go through it for whatever his ultimate purpose is, if that was going to be my argument. And the same, and I could see her counterpart being to that, like, well, that really is an answer. It says, let me explain how, when she asked Jennifer about it, and she said, like, quantum physics, right? Like, you only have a semblance of knowledge on that, so it might not make sense to you. So you would think that a deity, a supreme being's level of conscious thought would be so far beyond yours. It never makes sense to you. So, like,
yeah, I mean, I really wish I could have paid more attention to that part.
No, I mean, and listen, I was like playing volleyball with myself here, like playing, like, I can see that I would have kind of came at it this way. But it was, like I said, it was a good discussion. Like I said, if I had to pick a person who was the most provocative, it's Jenna. And that's what I wanted out of that. I wanted people to, create introspective thought and, challenge positions and maybe get somebody to think. Kay was one of those two who's like, listen, I'm not stuck in anything. I take on the information I'm given and I process it and then I come to my own conclusions. And I think that's everybody there. Some people are just more, stuck in a certain position than others.
I had a thought before the debate even started that I didn't have time to really think about and flesh out, was that, man, I wish that I could just come up with a way to make sure everybody has a chance to interrogate each other, some kind of cross-sectional type discussion format where, like, this person interrogates all 3 people, then the next person interrogates all 3 people, and I don't know, man.
No, but you have to do a 2-parter, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of like, you have an intermission, right? You have the front half where it's everyone kind of explain their position and give them 10 minutes. And then that allows the other parties to write questions out, structure, and, hey, they know what they're going into. We give them some preconceived, pre-designed questions, and they work from there. Like, hey, this is just the baseline. Like, explain what your religion is, how you got into it, the general structure, functionality, the belief system, any core values, stuff like that. So once that's all out there, we can kind of look across, have a comparison, and then say, okay, cool. Now the next one is kind of like a volley of questions where we kind of not pick apart, but we challenge your thought and your ability to defend your position respectfully. But but it takes that. You have to give them enough time to get it out there. And it almost becomes almost like a court case, like where you gotta,
time limits really suck.
Because some of that stuff you have to go back and, like, if you're not an expert, like I said, Jenna and Kay were like, hey, we're new. Some of that's going to be, up there as far as the level of involvement in that particular faith or belief system. So it comes to it's a tricky one.
Coming into it, I'm not even sure. Do you have a bias in this already? Do you subscribe to a religion? Are you atheist? Or are you?
No. So here's, I guess I would go lean towards agnostic to a point. Because kind of to Jennifer's point, where like everything has to have a certain degree of fact or evidence. That's where, but the definition of faith is actually, more so along the lines of hope. I hope this is true because I'm believing without proof. So it's a counterintuitive position to be. So
is that what
like,
she said? I'm sorry, I don't mean to like cut you off, but is that what she said?
Well,
That she
essentially,
hopes it's true.
She was saying that like a lot of her stuff is based in evidentiary supported the discussion, like science. She was saying the science is what drives her, and then it ties into her faith, as I took it from her.
Mm-hmm.
Might be going a little bit ad-lib in there, but that's how I took it. She was like, hey, like, as she was breaking things down and relating it to, hey, like on the subatomic level, she was bringing these things up. And I said, hey, I've heard that with a couple other friends. And I said, okay, like, listen, we can point to certain scientific things and say, like, this is a proven fact. There's no, it's a law, of science, right? When we talk about gravity, we get that. Like, everyone can see that. It's observable. It's repeatable. Voila. But when you start talking about to the faith side, think about it, right? And this is where I kind of go with it. I balance between it, because think about how many faiths there have been in the world. Some that are no longer here, some that have been here longer than Christianity, some that are here newer than Christianity, and it's kind of it's not homogenized, right? So it's a very blended humanity or social construct. What was that?
I'm saying eclectic. I was suggesting.
Yeah, we're all over. We're all over the map. So who's to say who's more right than wrong when you don't have evidentiary support, right? But then again, I think there's some confusion with like where causality or just making a correlation is something doesn't necessarily mean that it's factual. I think I could spin some facts in my favor because there's a commonality there, not necessarily that's a direct connection. So I just kind of look at. To be honest, like I said, I don't mind what anybody else does. I don't know. That is my position. I do not know.
Well, that's atheist.
Yeah, I don't.
As an agnostic atheist.
Yeah. So I'm like on that. I'm like, listen, there's so much stuff that my level of knowledge in the world is a drop in the ocean. So.
Yeah.
I leave it at that.
As things
are presented to me, they do it. I will take anything on board, and I will see if it works for me. If it doesn't, so fine. I just let it pass. If it works for me and I can take it on, I'll learn from it, and we grow. I think that's the ultimate goal: is to get to some point of a higher level of thinking, and make the world better.
There's this YouTuber named Anthony Magnabosco who does this thing called street epistemology, where he walks around and challenges people on the street about the way that they do their epistemology, the way they do their thinking. He actually has the physical, I think he has actual physical jar, a sealed jar full of gumballs. And he says to the person, he says, let's say I have this jar of gumballs here, and I tell you that I just poured randomly a bunch of gumballs into this jar and sealed it, and I didn't count them in any kind of way, and I told you there's an even number of gumballs in this jar. Do you believe me? And then they always say, well, I don't know, maybe. No, do you believe me? You have no reason to believe it either way. It could be even, it could be odd. There's a 50-50 chance. So you are agnostic to the fact of whether or not it is even or odd. So in that case, your position is agnostic.
Yeah,
and that's all atheism is. It's just, I don't know. You can't prove it until you open the jar, count the gumballs, and then I will be a believer in your gumball god.
Exactly. You are more on the side of, hey, let me get that proof, which is a perfectly fine position to be. And I've heard arguments that, like I said, it doesn't make you any less morally sound. We all have morals regardless. It doesn't have to be a monotheist religion. You could be, like I said, people get pagans bad term, a bad connotation for years. Even the Satanists, like I don't necessarily fully understand that, but I'm guarantee you they got some of the same moral values as any other.
Yeah, probably.
Or organized religion. It's overlap, right? Like if you look at Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, it's the same God.
We all share a
You just
culture.
kind of branch off in different lanes.
We all share a culture, and we all live in
Yeah.
the same society. We have to have a certain commonality to us. That's how
Well,
we
we're
function.
explaining it, and I forget who it was who said it. It was during the audio issues in the beginning. Basically, I lose track. I'm trying to figure out who it was. I'll come back to it, but it was a good point about that whole thing. How can you say one's more than the other?
I don't know, but it's like we have to go to the fringes in order to see where our differences are, like with abortion, like
Mhm.
with I mean, what else? I don't know. Yeah, there was a really
Well,
good quote. I wish I
well,
could say it verbatim. It was like I think it was
like death
V,
penalty, like the death penalty, right?
the death penalty. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
one.
in the Bible, right? You got an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, right? So, like, yeah, the Old Testament's all about like that's it. New
Yeah.
Testament's a little bit more forgiving, but
A little bit.
it's up to interpretation at that point, right? So,
Mhm. That's what really gets me is the whole interpretation thing. There was this one analogy I heard a long time ago. It's like if you were writing a computer manual for people all around the world, and it was going to be translated into Japanese and French and Australian, et cetera, et cetera. Australian speak English, but but it was going to be translated in all these different languages. You would make sure that you would triple check that every single translation would be perfectly in line with your intent. You wouldn't have it translated, into Chinese and it totally mess up the program.
yeah, you verify.
And if you would go to that kind of care for a computer manual, how much more care should you go to for ensuring the souls of the people you supposedly love?
Point.
And I mean, people are supposedly damned because of these minor indiscrepancies in these books. I mean, all it takes is the fact that some people got raped a long time ago
Yeah.
for a lot of people to be atheist and be damned to hell.
So, not that's not a funny, but you actually brought up a good side point. Have you ever seen Penn and Teller's Bullshit?
Yeah, a few times, I think.
Yeah, they had that episode where they brought the theology expert, and they were explaining like the translations, right? They're saying, think about this, right? In high school, somebody would tell you a story, it'd be a rumor. By the time it made it to the end of the day, that story blew out of proportion,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if we can't get a story that happens in one day to be 100% accurate, how do you think a story over 2,000 years is going to translate?
Right.
And the example that was in that show was the guy was saying, think about crossing the Red Sea. Like, let's talk about this. He says, now I'll give you the guy comes down, puts his hand in the water, spreads it, they walk across. Do you know how wide the Red Sea is?
I don't actually.
Pretty wide. Like outside of the Suez Canal where that ship got turned sideways, we're talking like miles wide. We're not talking like you're crossing like it's not like crossing the LA River where you just need somebody to kind of like give you a little a wooden plank and you walk across. And if anybody's ever seen the bottom of a body of water, it's like the Grand Canyon. You can't just walk across. So
It would take
he was
days,
like
what you're saying.
basically, yeah, he's like, so you're telling me if the average person is walking 5 to 7 miles an hour and you could let's say 20 miles, that's 4 hours. You don't think the Pharaoh and horses can't catch you in 4 hours? But let's really look at this. You had infirmed, you had children, you had all of your household goods and stuff of that nature. Do you really think you're
Animals.
walking at a solid 5 miles an hour? Well, you were going to like probably 2.
Yeah.
So that's now the Pharaoh's got 8 to 10 hours to catch up to you.
So God's
And
just sitting there with his hands like,
yeah, he's just like, they right there. I can see him. Like, do I really want to go over there? Like, so he basically saying like, yeah, maybe some of the stories were embellished a little bit, but really it's the message that you're supposed to get out of it. And like I said, okay, well, I mean, I can get a good story and the morality of it, but do you, and then they went down to further to say, hey, do you take the Bible figuratively or literally? and which ones do you choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's a dangerous one. I don't. So I was like, you can't tell me unless it's like, you know, in the back of the book where Jesus is talking, they highlighted in red, right? That's factual, right? We'll give it that. But everything else is up for interpretation. Is this story meant more of like a morale booster, or is this actually what happened? You know, how do we delineate between that?
I mean, you know what's funny is like the Christian of this debate really didn't even get that much time. Like, I mean,
Well,
I
right.
tried,
I think everyone
but
came from Christianity, so they were just like, yeah, we got
yeah,
it.
right. Exactly. Like,
like he got put on the timeout table. Like it's like, no,
like, everybody's like, we've
you've
been
had
there
your
before.
time. Wait, and I think as I look at non-denomination now, and like the mechanisms for the religion are changing, right? It's not as you know, to be telling somebody when they get in there that they're going to hell and there's pretty much nothing they can do other than pray and hope, right? Like that they get forgiven. That's a horrible hand to give somebody up front, especially because that means you're leaning more Old Testament. And
Yeah.
if we're going to take that whole figurative versus literal, right? There's parts in that in the Old Testament. If we have to follow everything in the Bible, and there's nothing that comes in New Testament says, "Hey, disregard Old Testament." So you have to take it all on board. Well, there's parts that say you can't go near a woman when she's on her period. Really? Or that you should stone a disobedient child.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So you got to kind of like, you know, exercise judicious cautious with stuff like that. And that's not just the Christianity, that's the anything that you take on board, right? You know, so somebody tells you the sky is red. Well, why is it red? You know, like, you know, let's talk about this. Is it really red, or is that just the way light's hidden it?
So if you could summarize, like, let's say K's position in like a couple sentences, how would you do that right now? How do you think that? How would you say that?
I think K is, although she is under the pagan hat, I think she's actually a little further removed than that.
You think she's more pantheist?
Like, yeah, I think she's
Because
like
Jennifer
she's
suggested
blending.
that.
It's a blend. Because like I said, she's got that structure, and she's like she said, I'm taking it on. I'm as I'm learning, I'm blending into who I am, and it's becoming a part of me. So that's one thing. But she's also saying like the thing that brought her into it was that it really wasn't a judgment, right? And there wasn't a predeterminate you're a sinner. So like she's like, hey, I didn't like that in Christianity. I didn't like how I was damned from the get-go. And it was always hellfire, brimstone, I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm a sinner. She's like, this one is like, no, and it's more in tune to nature. So like that for me is what I took from her, is that yes, she is in that faith and she's learning it on, but she also is in this position where she was, like she said, I was atheist for years because of her traumas, her religious traumas.
But what do you think that she actively believes now?
I think she does.
But what are her beliefs? That's what I'm asking you. What are her beliefs? Do you think that you got that from this debate?
I don't. And that's what I said. That's why I kind of put her on the cusp of she's learning, or maybe no one really delved into that for her because they just assumed it was what it was, right?
Yeah. See, that's what I was worried about.
Yeah. And it's even up front, I think, because she gave a really short like intro, and I was like, oh wow, that was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I really got what she got out of it. I mean,
I really feel like I got an idea of what Jennifer believes. Obviously, I know what Jenna believes. William, you know, everybody knows what Christians believe, but you know,
it was like, look, we got it, man. You don't even you get 1 minute.
I mean, there are many different versions of Christianity, but
yeah,
you know.
And I think actually what Kay was kind of getting on a little bit there was because some of it was, I think some of what Jennifer was saying was kind of crossing over into some of Kay's thoughts about tying things into the world, because right, you know, the paganism is the natural part of this.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, and she asked a question to it. It was like, hey, so what do you mean by this? You know, like, but then, you know, they kind of, you could see where they dealt, like the line split real quickly.
I would have asked her about, like, you know, hurricanes, meteors, HIV, bot flies, COVID-19, you know, stuff like that.
You know what? I had this discussion with somebody, and not necessarily on a religious point, but just like with all these things in the world, and I think it did tie into religion a little bit. But I was like, if you really look at us as humans, what do we most resemble, right?
We're mostly what?
As a species, or like as a as an organism.
You said we're mostly what?
We're more like a virus.
We are mostly like a virus.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before.
We
I
are,
felt that way.
we are destroying this place.
We are. I mean, historically speaking, that's what we are predisposed to be.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at it when we try to come up with all these things to stop, COVID or like I said, AIDS or any of that stuff, but we literally function on just a higher thinking level that we perceive.
Yeah.
I think viruses, as we see them, are pretty straightforward. They got one goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we have the ability to go outside of that, and I think that kind of goes with the supports our belief systems, right? Where we're trying to fill in the blanks, and the best way you can do that is, what makes sense to you, right? Not necessarily what you can prove, but what can you articulate that would justify your position. Didn't mean it was right; it just means it filled in that blank for you, and sometimes others.
I don't know. Kind of drawing a blank there. What'd you say?
Well, your audio cut out for a second.
I don't know. I'm just trying to process it.
Yeah. So like, and that's where I go back and forth in my head. I like, where do you draw the line between a belief, a fact, evidence, and how do they all intertwine to answer the ultimate question? Why are we here? What are we doing here? Who brought us here?
Well, I'll tell you, for me, I don't believe in beliefs.
Hey, that is a position.
I'd just throw that whole idea out the window. I think that's just like a relic, of our past. The thing that it's like a crutch that we needed to have when we had no idea how to mine the universe for facts. And now that we have an idea of what facts are, we should just pursue those and throw the idea of beliefs at the wayside. I think that we should just throw that whole idea out the window. We don't need them, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. I guess like maybe I'm being hyperbolic. I'm probably being hyperbolic. To be honest.
I think but it happens, right? Like
you need beliefs for like interpersonal relationships. You need to believe that your friends care about you. You need to believe that your wife or your girlfriend loves you. You need to believe stuff like that, So I guess I'm being hyperbolic. But like, I don't know. Not really. You can gather facts on that stuff.
Now you're delving into like psychology. Like, you just broached on Maslow's hierarchy of need, right?
You don't need beliefs for that stuff. You have facts, right? You gather facts about your girlfriend, right? She does this for you. She cares about this. She asks you this and that. She does all this. You have a list of things that you know about her and her behavior towards you that build a cumulative case for why you can say, I think that all of this points to the probability that she loves me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when those facts are diminished or when they don't exist, then you don't have that case and you can't say that,
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to believe it based on faith. It's never like you just met a girl. I mean, some people, I guess, are still in that fairy tale crap where they're like, oh, I just met her and I love her and shit like that, but in reality, that's not how it works.
You're smitten.
And then like that's how you as a person who loves other people, you kind of have to maintain the list of things that you're doing for the people that you love. Like you love your girlfriend, so you're doing this and that and the other. You're making sure that you're paying attention to her needs and this and that, just to make sure that she has a list of ways of knowing that you love her.
No, yeah, absolutely. And that, like I said, this delves into like so many other areas when we talk about religion, right? Because then we just look at our country right now, right? Religion crosses into politics. It's also a psychological piece. There's, you have what it's like the experiential, like just your whole experience, right? Like it all delves into that. And people, I think sometimes shortchange it, or they just want to dismiss the other categories. Like I was explaining the prioritization, like you can have two number one priorities, right? Like it makes no sense, right? But
you have two top priorities.
No. But they can be literally at the same level, right? You can just like if you run a race, you can come in second. Two people can come in second place. There's not in a rational work.
I get it. You can have two priorities that are co-equally.
But they're different things, right? Like your relationship and your job, right? You really want your relationship to succeed, right? So you're gonna put everything into that, but you're never gonna stop not putting effort into work, right? They're always gonna be kind of congruent levels. They're always gonna be at the same, kind of in the same window, give or take. It'll balance, but you're always gonna want that relationship, especially if you're married and you have children and stuff like that. You're always gonna want it. Now they fail, just like people get fired from their jobs, but you're always gonna have that as a top priority.
Yeah, they're two top priorities, sure.
Yeah, and you're not gonna say my family is necessarily more important than my job, because you won't quit. You will not quit your job for your family under most cases, and you won't leave your family for your job.
I mean, if my wife is asking me to quit my job, would I quit it? I'd quit my job for my wife. Yeah,
just arbitrarily.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You would arbitrarily quit, no real reason. Just quit your job.
Yeah.
Why?
Why not?
You don't like your job, bro.
Do I
No, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like
I totally would. Yeah. I feel like you could have, if you had some time to really think about it, you could come up with a really good, solid set of examples that I couldn't.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like there's
I think job and wife are not going to be the ones.
Yeah, I'm just throwing them out here. But like what I'm saying is, like, say you can look at the psychological part of that, look at the religious part, look at the like our social normatives, the things that go on every day that we kind of value. These things are all on different pillars, but they support the same foundation, which is us, right? So like, you don't necessarily have to have the religion one. You could like that could be your pillars. They'll say this does not work for me. I'm good here because I'm going to go fact-based or whatever I choose to go. But just like in kind of how I was talking to Maslow's hierarchy of need, right? That's kind of in there, right? That's that whole the safety part of that, right? The security. You want to feel secure, right? Everybody wants to feel, and you have the belongingness and the love and needs, right? So that's the third phase, I believe. So like it all ties in, but we just choose to not acknowledge it if it doesn't necessarily fit nice, right?
Yeah, totally. I get it, man. Yeah. Like, there are plenty of things like that for me. Like for me, I'm a romantic. That's my affect. So I'm always going to put the interpersonal relationships above most things. But like two interpersonal relationships would be a really easy conflict for me. You know what I'm saying? And I've been in that conflict many times, with like, somebody I love versus a family member, two different family members, trying to make me choose between them.
That's a better example.
Yeah, like your mom or your sister or your girlfriend and your mom.
Yeah, your wife and your mom, right? Like
yeah. Drama. I've had those dramas.
I want no parts of that one. Just I'm gonna be Switzerland today, guys.
So yeah, but
no. I think it went great. I'm in total complete agreement with you that maybe there should have been a little bit more focus. Maybe like hell. I mean, outside of the technical issues, I think like I said, maybe a slide just kind of pop up there and say, hey, why don't you send me a slide or two to kind of like explain your position. Not necessarily pros and cons, but like here's the kind of structure, here's the history, a brief, just so you can see it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I mean, hell, I would have wanted to see a Scientologist on here.
Good luck. That they're like on lockdown, man. That's what I hear. Ever since Leah Remini.
I'm just trying to I just want the inclusiveness. I want everybody to get their piece.
But I think that ever since Leah Remini and all these other Scientologists have been doing these documentaries, like I guess they have them all on lockdown. They ain't talking to the press. They ain't doing no kind of outreach. And their numbers are dwindling because the internet,
Yeah, they're getting outed.
Jehovah's Witnesses too. I just saw Kingdom Hall turn into a auction house. I was laughing my ass. I was so happy.
I mean, like I said, but you gotta. It has to connect with people, and like I said, people think about this, right? you're back where you are. I'm out here in California, right? No way do people in our respective states think alike. There's some issues that we kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever, but it's a mindset thing, right? So if you can't connect to the people on that level, you lost them. Like,
dude, I saw a Trump 2024 sign, a huge ass one, driving down the street yesterday.
No. That's here too. Don't mistake it. If you're not in a big city in California, it's red.
Oh yeah.
I was at the dealership the other day before the election, and the Trump train came coming through. It was a big semi truck, decorated up, and about 150 cars came right behind him. And I just went,
if they don't lock his ass up, man, he's gonna give him a run for his money. I'm not saying he'll win, but he's gonna win the Republican primary for sure.
Think, you know what? Like, I think the grand jury in New York has a good amount of evidence.
We'll see.
Once they got them tax returns, you saw things moving.
We'll see. Teflon Don.
He can't pardon himself, man.
They impeached him twice.
He was impeached, but he wasn't convicted.
Yeah, we going off topic though. We should just start a whole new episode for this.
Yeah. we can do that one. But no, like I said, yeah, I think we could have got more other pieces in there. Islam would have been, a good one to cut. Well, depending on how far, which sect you go. Same thing with Christianity, which I didn't get that from William. Was he Catholic?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because that matters too, right?
I honestly don't know.
I've had some experiences in different denominations, and I'm not gonna mention them by name, but some of that stuff is a little too much for me. And I had to leave. I was like, listen, much love, whatever gets you closer to where you're trying to go, I'm with it, but I won't be with you.
I'm part of this religious debate and discussion Facebook group, right? Mm-hmm. And there are these apologists there that really get under my skin, right? You bring up an argument about mainstream Christianity here in America, right? Mm-hmm. And they just dismiss it because that's not what's mainstream Christianity in the world. Because in the world, the majority of Christians are Catholic and Orthodox Christians. Oh, and they don't believe like the evangelicals and the Baptists and everybody else around here. They have a looser interpretation. Everything in the Bible is just allegory, and it's all up for interpretation, and none of it's literal, and just you can't pin them down on nothing.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, if you look at like the last 3 popes, right? That was a seesaw ride. Hey, gays, you're okay. Not really. No, it's cool. You can get married, but not really married. More like just a civil union thing, right? That's cool, right? But we really don't want you because you're not going to heaven. That was. I was just like, what are y'all doing over there? Pick a side of the fence. Just get off of it.
It's like their whole purpose is to be covered in intellectual oil, so you can never grab them. They always too slippery. You know what I mean?
And I think that's why the numbers are the way they are now. People like I was saying, if you can't connect, you aren't evolving, right? You could see the evolution throughout the Bible if you read it, right? That's Old Testament, New Testament, right? So you don't think in 2,000 years anything has changed enough to kind of maybe make you guys think like we have to change too? Like, so Jesus dies and we just say, that's it. Close up shop. This is where we are. We won't look at anything else after that. Like, it's a flawed position. Because they say, when you see like people being made saints, it's interesting.
They changed the way that they read things, but that's about it. Mm-hmm.
But they made that one kid a saint. Like, oh, you got to perform 3 miracles and be canonized, and the whole process. I had to look it up because it didn't make any sense to me. And they were trying to make younger people saints, as I took it, and then this time might be the actual thing, to bring in new blood, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, some kid in like South America, and they
they always got somebody doing miracles, man. There's tons of videos on the internet of them bringing people back to life from the dead and making people's legs longer and shit. There's this one lady in Africa. She had this like she in reality, she's born with this deformity in her arm, but she can just kind of make it look normal whenever she wants, right? She went to like 4 different pastors and they all healed her. You can see all 4 of their videos of all 4 of them healing her from this fucking deformity. It's fucking ridiculous.
So I remember back in the day, I would wake up early before school. There's a morning cartoons, right? That we all watch.
Yeah.
And there was Ernest Ainsley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I drive by his church all the time.
And he would slap the living shit out of people.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
In the name of Jesus. And he would like fucking full on assault charge right upside the fucking side of their head.
And they
what
deserve
I realized
it too.
is he was creating trauma, and that TBI would make you forget whatever problem you had. So I was like, why would you go there and let him hit you like that? And so it's like I took that more to like, you know, the placebo effect, right? If you believe it enough, maybe it does something for you.
These are scam artists, man, and they do it well, and they make lots of money. I love it. But yeah, man, I think we should go ahead and wrap it up because I think you got to get going. It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah, man. We definitely need to get another talk, though.
Yeah, let's do some more talking, man.